Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here on the East Coast of the United States of America. I want to welcome all of you from around the world, especially our good friends and neighbors from Canada. We continue to receive emails and messages from people who are living in Europe and Asia, as far away as Australia. So we thank you all for joining us. Now, folks, before I introduce tonight's guest, there are a few things I want to speak to you about, but I'd like you to take a look at something right now. Something that I think is so thrilling, and I'll explain to you after I show you a video what this is all about. So here we go, folks. Take a good look at this. Now, folks, I'll tell you why I'm excited over this. This is the first Canadian company, family company, that decided that they would help sponsor some of the broadcasting that we're doing and helping the cause of faith and freedom. So you see, that's why we have a great company, Power Blast Canada. There's the number, folks, even if you want to call them and thank them, because these are true patriots. They love their country, and we're going to do everything we could here at Campaign for America to help build family-owned companies in Canada, the United States, and worldwide. So I want to thank the Power Blast Canada company, and we're going to show that commercial a little later. I'll tell you one thing, folks, you could eat off of those floors. My goodness, what a product! Whatever they're doing, that's cleaner than any hospital floor I've ever walked into. So thank you so much, Power Blast Canada, and we're going to run that a little later for others to see. Folks, great news. We got great guests coming up. But boy, I'll tell you, remember I shared with you some time ago, especially the Canadians that were sending us letters and emails and full of distress, feeling hopeless, helpless. Well, remember I shared with you that the whole world was watching, and that as soon as a Campaign for America, as soon as the organizations up in Canada, like the Canadians for Truth, Freedom, and Justice, who are working so hard, as soon as organizations like that began to get the information out, across the borders of Canada to other countries, actions would be taken. Well, action was taken this week. The Ohio State Legislature here in the United States took pretty demonstrative action with regard to what's going on in Canada. I'm going to show you something, and then we're going to read you a short summary of what this is. This here, folks, if you could look at it, that's a resolution, all right? An official resolution out of the Ohio State Legislature. And here is what it says. To urge the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom to take whatever action is necessary to address and rectify the situation described in this resolution, and consider adding Canada to the special watch list of countries where the government engages in violations of religious freedom. And indeed, in my view and the view of the Ohio State Legislature and the view of millions of people around the world, the Trudeau government has crossed the line. They have gone down a road of religious persecution, among other things. So this resolution, in a summary that we're putting together, which I'll release next week, is going to go to every legislature in the United States. And we don't expect the Democrats to move on them, but we expect the Republicans to. And then come November, when we totally wipe out the Democrat Socialist Communist Party of the United States and take control of our government, I hope that the United States Congress moves speedily on this. So yeah, you've been heard, and we're going to continue to make sure you're heard. And you've been heard so much that you've got some great people in Canada. We've had them on, but another wonderful hero. I call these people heroes because that's what they are. They're stepping out of the box. They're working hard for their country. They're working hard for faith and freedom. And I now want to introduce to you. And by the way, Theo was going to be with us tonight. He had another conflict. He is going to be with us in the near future. But we have a great partner of his who is the co-founder and president of Canadians for Truth and Freedom and Justice. And here's my new friend, a friend that I just happened to actually made friends with you about an hour ago. And this is Joseph Borgo. Did I get it right, Joe? Borgo?
Yes, you got it right. Yeah. Hi, Lieutenant Stephen. Very good meeting you a few minutes ago.
Well, thank you. And if you could speak a little louder, Joe, that would be terrific.
Okay. How's this?
That is great. Thank you. So my first question to you, we do have a few thousand people watching. I've got a couple of feeds here. For the sake of the American people here who are now engaged in this, they didn't know what was going on before the Canadians brought this to our attention. But what is your organization all about, and what's your role in this?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Myself and a group of about 6 people co-founded Canadians for Truth, Freedom, and Justice as a non-profit organization. We incorporated in December of 2020. We had been meeting for months, where what really got us going is we could see, like any honest truth seeker around the world could see in January, February, March, April of 2020, that I think no country did a better job of it than under Fox. Laura Ingraham was interviewing people that had COVID, had been really sick with it, and they were taking hydroxychloroquine with zinc. She interviewed a number of people that had recovered, and yet in the Canadian news media, none of that was being covered. And so we were really concerned with what we were seeing happening here in Canada. The CBC, CTV, Global News, they were all suppressing the truth about how effective hydroxychloroquine was, especially with zinc and vitamin D. And so when that was happening, because of my background, I'm president of a manufacturing company, have been involved in manufacturing all my adult life. But I also went through some life-threatening health challenges through the 80s and 90s and recovered. And as a result, I became very knowledgeable in matters of natural health and healing. And so I knew right away in January something was up. And in our health food store in our local community, we had supplements that we knew could prevent and treat almost any virus like H1N1 and that sort of thing. And yet all the information, all the therapeutics that were available were being suppressed. And so that was one of the major reasons why we decided to found Canadians for Truth, Freedom, and Justice. And we began meeting 2 to 3 times a week. I pretty much went to work. I've been working full time on this. I'm blessed to be blessed with a team of talented people in my company. And I knew that this was really critical for our country to get the truth out on the therapeutics in order to save lives. And we helped 29 people to have speedy full recovery with quercetin, zinc, vitamin D. The great American doctor, Dr. Joseph Mercola, had published information on quercetin. It did the same thing as hydroxychloroquine. It acted as an ionophore to shuttle zinc into the cell, which shut down the virus, along with vitamin D. And so we kept putting that information out here in Canada to prevent and treat the illness, to save lives. And we help people even get out of the hospital with those solutions. That's just a few of the things that we did through Canadians for Truth.
With regard to your mission, by the way, it sounds like it's been very successful because you're right. Even here in America, we concluded that there was a lot of suppression of a lot of good information, and now we're finding out. We're finding out that there was a lot of suppression. With regard to truth and freedom in Canada, uh, I've got to tell you, Joe, I've never seen in a free country a leader unleash the government vis-a-vis the police or whatever on its own citizens in a peaceful demonstration. Now, I've got to tell you, here in America, we've had pretty violent demonstrations, very violent, so violent that the government here actually surrendered themselves to these violent offenders. You're the complete opposite. When the truckers' convoy organized in Canada, uh, we were absolutely amazed over how well behaved, if you will, the truckers and the protesters were. And I've said this all along. It was like a festival. They respected the police. They did what they were told. But here's what shocked us, and I would love for you to weigh in on this. What shocked me personally, as a 38 veteran of law enforcement, is when I saw videos of cops smashing windows on the personal property of people. The mounted cop. I took that video and I showed it to an NYPD mounted police officer and a couple of others, and they said that doesn't happen. That should never happen. But the follow-up question that the cops gave me is, did anybody on that mounted patrol or any cop standing there see if the woman was hurt, to see if she was really badly injured? I didn't see that. Now, look, I don't beat up on cops. My whole family's police and military, except when the police are wrong, they got to be called out. So we have that going on. Then we have the pastors like Pastor Arthur and others who we had on this broadcast being arrested and police showing up at church services, and on and on and on and on. The only place I've ever seen this done similar to that was in Beijing, China, Tiananmen Square, and countries like that. As a Canadian, and I want the Americans to hear it right from you. As a Canadian, I know you love your country as we love our country, but you must feel as bothered as we are about the leaders in our country with regard to the way they're treating your citizens.
Yeah, there's no question. Like, you guys are questioning whether or not your elections were corrupted, and we're doing the same thing here. I think we when Trudeau was campaigning the last go around in 20, was it 21? Yeah, there was a federal election here in 21. Wherever he went, people rejected him, even as far as people threw gravel at him, so it's hard to imagine that Trudeau could have gained the seats that he did. It's hard to believe that there are that many Canadians that are that far out of touch with the reality of what this person is up to. We all know, we've seen the videos, Klaus Schwab speaking that that Justin Trudeau, he's so proud of Justin Trudeau and half the cabinet that they're working with the World Economic Forum. And I've seen recent videos of people who have been through that program, the World Economic Forum program, what they indoctrinate those people through. And it blows you away to think that as part of their programming, they have to make an allegiance to Satan. And so there's evidence that Trudeau and others in the Liberal cabinet have made pledges to Satan. And the way he operates, it's, we're for a loss of words to describe him. I mean, there's many words that we use off camera to describe him, but we're at a loss of words. It's just totally outrageous. We have, the man has no morals, no ethics. He's been in trouble ever since he's been elected with ethical violations. With the SNC Lavalin situation where he coerced the Minister of Justice to drop the case, and so, yeah, we're in a really tough position. But the good part of that. There's a good flip side to that, is that there are Canadians all over the country. We're awake and we know what's going on. And so we're working within the rule of law, like the Freedom Convoy. We were there, Canadians for Truth. We had a professional videographer. We had a team out there. We spent the whole time, myself and one of my associates that's with me here today. We were out there assisting the truckers in every way we could to keep it a legal, peaceful protest, which we did. We witnessed what was going on over there, and it was fantastic. We heard Canadians from all over the country as we were driving there, and Canadians over there that they've never been so proud of their country for what the truckers did to unify Canadians from all across the country. So Canadians are waking up, and we're not going to sit on our hands and let a tyrant violate our charter rights and freedoms without doing anything about it. And we've been involved. We're involved in a legal case here in Canada, an important legal case to protect a young girl. We were supporting it, to protect a young girl a 12-year-old that did not want to take an experimental gene therapy. And it's in the Court of Appeals, and we've got our fingers crossed that we've got some honest judges that are looking at it. And so, yeah, we're standing up all across the country. There are hundreds of thousands of us working now more and more together to stand up to take back our God-given rights and freedoms.
And may I add, millions around the world, because I guess what Trudeau did not expect was the backlash he got from members of the European Union, members of the United States government. And I've got to tell you, we've heard from people in France, in Australia, in Germany, in Great Britain, and we're actually forming a coalition for faith and freedom with representatives from each country. And what we're going to do is share all that we're doing on the air here, and some of the work all you're doing and others are doing worldwide. And you know what, Joe? They up in Canada, and the Americans find this hard to believe, because we're finding a lot of things hard to believe, especially in reference to our own country, is the media is controlled by the government. And we have a couple of stations here that are controlled by the government, but for the most part, they're not. And that's something that must be very frustrating, and why the need for media outlets like what we're doing, what you're doing, what I'm doing, what others are doing. We are now the media. And this, I know, sickens them. Now, some of them on the opposition, meaning opposition from us, they watch this broadcast, which we do get interesting mail, all right? And I'm sure some of Trudeau's people are watching. And you mentioned something very interesting. And I say this also to the American individuals who are backing Joe Biden and Trudeau. The fact of the matter is, Joe will be right back with us. Oh, he's back on the air. All right, Joe, stand by.
Yeah, not
all right,
sure.
You're back, Joe. That was quick.
Yeah, not sure what happened there.
Yeah, that happened before. But going back to what I was saying, so my message to those of you who are supporters of Trudeau and Joe Biden is simply this. You're going to get caught. People who are corrupt in this country, takes a little time, they get caught. As Joe said, if there's any corruption and chicanery going on with Trudeau and his government, you're going to get caught. But remember this, that as you go up the ladder, and I said this, Joe, to cops, as you go up the ladder of corruption, the guy on top is not going to take the fall for the guy at the bottom. And so if you're one of those people who are, chumming around with these corrupt characters, you're going to jail. If you have been committing crimes, you're going to jail. We see it happening here in the United States. And I want a word of encouragement to all of you in Canada. And Joe, you may not know this, but we do know that the WHO had their meeting and it kind of fell apart. Their idea to get everyone to give up their sovereignty didn't work out very well for them. Right. Also, George Soros, you know that name, right? Mm-hmm. Well, his candidates out in the West Coast were soundly defeated yesterday. So all the money that he put into some of these candidates, they're out the door. And let me add this. A lot of the Canadians may not know this because of the suppression you have with your media. That we didn't know this until one of our media outlets told us. Joe Biden, Joe, listen to this one. Joe Biden invited the south of our border, Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, invited all these leaders to a summit. All right, come, and we're all going to sit down. We're going to talk about how we're going to solve the problems of our border. Well, Joe Biden showed up. Nobody else showed up. It's a fact. No one showed up.
Wow. Eh?
What an embarrassment for him and for the United States of America.
Yeah,
and what we found interesting is that Joe Biden was ready to give millions of dollars to these countries, and they didn't even want his money. So my point is this. So those of you who are lining up with Trudeau, get ready to become a very lonely group of people, because that is what's going to happen. Faith and freedom always wins out. So, Joe, with regard to your functions now, how do you get the information out? How do you get the information? And what can we do to help? What can we do to help you there?
Well, you're already doing it. An interview like this helps Canadians for Truth. We've got a growing group of people that we're sharing information. We do our absolute best to be honest truth seekers. We want everything that we say and do as much as possible to be accurate. So you can go to our website, canadiansfortruth.ca or .net, canadiansfortruth.ca, and you can read about us. The core values and principles of Canadians for Truth. We recognize God as our creator. That's our core founding principle. We believe in God, and we recognize that he created the laws that govern our existence here on earth. It's self-evident that there are laws, scientific laws that govern our existence. They're all interconnected. It took an infinite intelligence to do something like that. We connect in Canada. Our charter begins, whereas Canada was founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. And so all the rights and freedoms that we have, the rights of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, even property ownership rights, those are referred to, like, for example, in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet, right? So everybody has rights to have property. And, so that's our number one founding principle of Canadians for Truth. Our second would be the principle of love. Our Creator is infinitely loving and has blessed us with love of family, love of children, love of our country. I think good people, men and women of good character, would care about their country, that it's a sovereign, that there's border controls. Love of second highest guiding principle. Our third would be truth. We understand that the relentless pursuit of truth is the key to solving every and all problems. Truth in the end is going to win the day. Those who are deceivers, liars and deceivers, again, that's in the 10 Commandments, right? Thou shalt not bear false witness. And so we're dealing with massive levels of bearing false witness. Our Prime Minister, you cannot believe a word that comes out of his mouth. I've listened to him talking the few times that I could stomach it, listening to him talking, and it's just pure lies coming out of his mouth. So I don't know how he is getting away with this. Obviously, the lawyers in the country, not enough lawyers are standing up, not enough judges. So that would be our third highest principle. Then our fourth highest guiding principle is freedom and personal responsibility. And again, our rights and freedoms, like the American Declaration of Independence, these are truths, are self-evident, that we were given life, liberty, and I say the pursuit of truth, which leads to happiness. If I could have counseled the American founding fathers, I would have had them say, put down the pursuit of truth, which leads to happiness. So that's in our founding principles, and justice and fairness. And so those are our founding and guiding principles, and people can learn about us at canadiansfortruth.net. There's much information that we've gathered over the last 2 years that are on there. The truth about face masks, the truth about therapeutics, the truth about what we stand for, and our our vision for our country. And so we're engaging more and more nationally. We have offices in Calgary, and we're building a team across the country because we were part of the Freedom Convoy. We have connections all across the country where we're working together with other groups as well to stand up for, to get the truth out and to develop strategies to bring about changes that are badly needed in our country.
Joe, we're going to break for a commercial. When we get back, I want to talk to you about a mutual friend that you and I have. Okay? So just stand by, Joe, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So thank you. Folks, we'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here in the United States of America, and I've got to tell you, I'm just watching feeds here. People in the United States want to know if Power Blast has offices here in America. Well, we'll find out, okay? But certainly that has had some impact on the people. Well, here's my friend, Joe. I want to thank you again, and we're going to spend a little time. You got a little more time, Joe?
Absolutely. I'm all yours.
Yeah, well, we started, these broadcasts a long time ago, 20 minutes, and then they went to 25. And then I'm watching numbers, which leads me to kind of stay a little longer. I'm watching a lot of numbers grow. There are a lot of people watching. So here's our mutual friend. And I owe it to this friend, all right? Owe it to this friend because of, let's put it this way, the work we're doing. And I promised him I would always include him in these conversations. That mutual friend is God. Jesus Christ. Yeah. That mutual friend is the person who gives us a calling in life to do the things we need to do at the period of time he wants us to do it. I believe, and our founding fathers believed, and I'm sure your signatories of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms believe without any doubt that faith and freedom are gifts from God. No parliament, no government, no leader on this earth gives us faith and freedom. They're gifts from God. And we have a duty, a responsibility to future generations to make sure that that faith that they're able to have in their hearts and that freedom will always be secure for them. And this is why, Joe, and I'm going to ask you to weigh in on something that is really important to us in America, and I now know extremely important to you in Canada and others around the world. We have taken up the playbook of the guy. You see the picture behind me? Can you see that pretty clear? You know who that is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we've taken Ronald Reagan's playbook in his war against communism. And we're beginning to see that Trudeau, Joe Biden, and others of their ilk have taken the playbook of Stalin, Marx, and Lenin. And they're slowly beginning to impose their will, the will of the government, the will of the state on we the people. And I say that because I notice something very clearly now, a pattern of first striking at religious freedom. Now, we warned the people in America a long time ago. The Second Amendment, we cherish that. We're under fire right now. We told them that after the Second Amendment is under attack, they're going to go after the First Amendment. And part of that Constitution, a big part of it is religious freedom. So when we started seeing pastors here get handcuffed, and we started seeing our colleges and other institutions being invaded, if you will, by the Chinese Communist Party, we know they're here. We've got proof. This is no conclusion based on no foundation. We have it. And it's out there in the public for anybody to see. We found by studying the Communist Manifesto that their first objective is take their faith away. Take their faith away, because without faith, they have no freedom. There's nothing left. So we see now, Joe, a dramatic rise in attacks on Jews in this country. Anti-Semitism is getting out of hand here. Now we're seeing attacks on the Catholic Church, Protestant churches. I mean, when I say attacks, I'm not just talking about verbal attacks. I'm talking about physical attacks. And back of my mind is, well, you know, we could blame mental illness all we want. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with that. And I blame criminal elements that have been released out on the streets. But I also blame the propaganda that's being fed to young people. The indoctrination in our schools brought to us by who? The Chinese Communist Party. Reagan fought the Soviet Communist Party in his time. Took him a long time. He won, brought down the Soviet Union with John Paul II and Margaret Thatcher. And by the way, something about, I'm going to ask you a question, all right, that I don't have the answer to because I don't know how Canadians feel about certain people. But I believe there was a prime minister named Brian Mulroney or Mahoney. All right.
Yeah, Brian Mulroney. Yeah.
Mulroney. How was he as a prime minister in your view?
Well, he got along. He was, you know, both Ronald Reagan and Brian Mulroney have Irish roots, as I do. Scottish.
Me too.
Yeah, Scottish. Well, that's our William Wallace in us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, you know, he got along very well with President Ronald Reagan. I was a big fan in the 80s, Reagan's presidency from 81 to 88. Loved the guy, you know, a very godly man, honest man. And we all, anybody who lived through that time, it was actually one of the greatest times of my life. The inspiration that I drew from Ronald Reagan, you know, it was amazing. I love the guy, you know, what he did for, and I've always loved the United States of America. I've got to tell you that. I kid people. I'm sure I was an American in a past life because I've always had a tremendous love for the United States of America and the American people. And no country in the world has stood up for freedom, everyone's freedoms in the world, more than the Americans. So, you know, I salute all the Americans. And when I was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party here in March and April, one of the things I spoke about at events that I was doing is that we need to get off America's coattails and, you know, invest the minimum of 2% of Canada's GDP, which is our commitment under NATO. That's what I would have done had I become leader and prime minister of the country. So, yeah. But to your question about Brian Mulroney, he was a friendly guy. We were disappointed in some ways with his prime ministership. He added over $400 billion to our national debt. He didn't do enough to address the spending problem. When Pierre Trudeau was in office from 1968 to 1984, 16 years, he added over in 2019 dollars, he added over $500 million to our national debt. His son, by the way, has done the same thing in record time. In half the time, his son has done the same thing, added to our national debt. But Brian Mulroney was a bit of an oxymoron. He's a conservative, but he didn't cut spending, and so he did some good things. You know, the NAFTA, the free trade agreement with the United States. We thought that was a good thing for a win-win. And so I liked Brian Mulroney. He was a likable fellow, you know, but not a disciplined fiscal conservative.
I bring his name up. Now, I could be wrong. I have to do a little bit of research on this. I'm trying to remember if he was in office or not. I believe he was. The United States of America owes a great, great debt of thanks and gratitude to the Canadian people. And a lot of young Americans don't know this, and I'm sure a lot of people watching don't know this, but there was a time, and you might remember this, Joe, where I believe an American pilot was shot down somewhere in the Mideast. And it was nearly impossible for us to get him back. And I believe there were other incidents regarding some American hostages when Reagan was in office. And guess who got him back? Some people are calling Brian sneaky, and I'll agree on this point. All right, he was so sneaky he got those Americans out. He got them out. Now, I believe he was the prime minister. I'm going to check into it. But whatever the case is, your country at that period of time stood up very, very tall for this country. And we were able to get our prisoners and hostages back. And I think it had a lot to do with airspace or somehow.
Yeah, that was in 1980. In 1981,
Okay.
when Carter was president, the Iranian hostage situation, and it was Taylor, the Canadian ambassador in Iran,
There you go.
that sheltered, I think, 44, quite a number
Yes.
of American people that came through the American embassy, and he sheltered them in the Canadian, and they figured the movie Argo, right?
Yes, yeah. But that, to me, I'll never forget what your government did, what your government did for us. And then, of course, we got rid of Carter. Reagan came in, and boy, he changed everything here. So we have, as countries, a great history that people are forgetting, that our young people don't know about. You know, D-Day came and went on June 6th, and of course we honored and paid tribute. But next to the American troops were Canadian troops. You know, I've talked to so many people who are relatives of World War II veterans, and a lot of them themselves, and they said, you know, yes, America stormed the beaches of Normandy, but who was with us? Our brothers from Canada. You see, so we have a long history together, and we're not going to allow, right, Joe? We're not going to allow Trudeau and Biden to tear that down and to let us forget that history. And we're making history now, getting back to our mutual friend, God. It's very clear to me that we have a divine calling. I believe that. And when I say we, folks, I'm talking about you. You know what, Joe? A lot of people say to me, well, you know, they don't have the qualifications to do what we're doing. They don't have the qualifications to voice their opinions. And I'm reminded of when someone said to me, just remember this: God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So all of us have a calling. And I would say, Joe, and I'd like you to weigh in on this because I think this is important. I believe it's important. People will write me and call me and say, gee, I don't have the means to do A, B, C, and D. Or I remember a blind woman getting in touch with us and telling me directly, look, I can't do this, that, and that, but what can I do to help? And I says, well, the most powerful thing you can do is to pray. Pray for us. And I think we have, in this generation of Americans and perhaps of Canadians around the world, we're kind of missing the point regarding the power of prayer. And we need our clergy to step up and start addressing that. Joe?
Well, when you, on to your point of qualifications, we have a prime minister that couldn't hold a job teaching drama and has zero competency skills, no moral character. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. I would never hire a man like that in a million years. He would have never been qualified to hold a job in my company. And yet he's prime minister of the country. So on the issue of qualifications, I think, Lieutenant, your history, what you've accomplished in your life and mine, I think you would make a far better president than Joe Biden. And I think I would as a prime minister. And I say that as humbly as I can.
I hear you. I think, I know you're right. But sometimes, we realize that God allows things to happen. And one thing, well, I'm not going to say one thing, but I think the most significant thing out of this situation regarding the truckers' convoy and what Canada started, God allowed to happen to wake us up. And I'll tell you that, will wake us up here in America. Canada, Joe, is not on the radar. Nothing. I mean, Canada was the last country on earth that an American would even talk about because we love Canada and we know they're great and friendly people and they're not creating any problems for us. All our focus of attention was on the southern border. And when the Canadians in your country protested against the government, we couldn't figure out why. What the heck is going up in Canada? Then we start getting letters, we start getting calls, we start getting emails, and we start getting dribs and drabs of news that Trudeau is transitioning your government into a communist regime. That was startling to hear. very startling to hear. And then we find out, well, you can't travel from one province to another without a card, a passport card for vaccinations, then freezing bank accounts, and then the cops that are saying, well, they're going to identify people who were at the protest and go after them, basically. I mean, this was stunning. So my point is this. The Bible says what man meant for evil, God turned for good. And what happened was it all blew up in Trudeau's face, all blew up in the face of those opposed to faith and freedom. And now we're beginning to see the fruits of our labor. Victory here, victory there. You're a victory story. Other organizations in Canada are a victory story. This resolution that I showed is a victory story. And people might say, and I see some of the feats, people say, but it's going too slow. It's going too slow. My answer to that is the answer that President Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, answered someone when they said, Mr. President, you're going too slowly. Well, old Abe said, well, I may be going slowly, but at least I'm moving forward. And that's our story, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to be able to snap your fingers to wake people up. But I mean, God was patient with you and I in our awakening. God is infinitely patient. He gave everybody free will. And so it's up to people to wake up at their own pace. You know, Buddha has a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so that's just, we can't force people to see the truth of the corruption in our country. We can, respectfully speak the truth about it and gather the factual evidence as we're doing and make that information available to whoever we think might be open. And we're seeing it. The Freedom Convoy, like you said, it woke up a lot of people, and all the people that were involved in that, I'm in contact with many of them, and they ain't slowing down. The Freedom Convoy's at work right now to free our country.
We never surrender, we never quit, and we always win. I mean, communism always fails. Their supporters always fail. I want to show you something, Joe, that you can't see on camera before we wrap things up. This here, I have another flag here. Isn't that beautiful? That was sent to me by, our wonderful, wonderful friend, David Dolan. He sent me this flag.
Right on.
And so here's what we're going to do. When we get this coalition together, and we're going to have Old Glory here. We're going to have the Maple Leaf here. We're going to have Australia here. This is going to look like a better United Nations for faith and freedom. What do you think of that? So, Joe, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap things up. I want you to feel free to say a few last words, give your website out, and let's stay in touch, because what we'll do is we'll do everything we could, because you're in Canada, I'm not. And I think it would be important for the people to as they do, they get in touch with us, but we certainly want them to get in touch with you because you're on the ground there. People,
Canadians or Americans, I don't know that there's anything illegal about Americans or Canadians becoming members of Canadians for Truth. You can go to our website, canadiansfortruth.ca. You can contact us. There's contacts there. We're working diligently. We're setting up offices in Calgary. We have offices here in St. Bruce, Saskatchewan. We're working diligently to set up a media. What do we call that, Ryan? It would be, it's a media outlet that's going to be part of our organization to be able to interview people. We've really become a policy think tank. And we're not ruling out other political possibilities, being that I was taken out of the conservative leadership race in what we felt was an inappropriate way. We feel that it was completely unjustified because we met all the criteria, but they're not going to slow us down. The truth has to get out there. So we're going to continue to work diligently. I want to say thank you to all the people in Canada and the United States, all the people who are standing up for truth, freedom, and justice in our countries, like yourself, Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. We can't thank all of you enough. Together, working together, networking, brainstorming, we will, I'm confident, with God's help, we're going to put together the strategies to win back our rights, our God-given rights and freedoms in our respective countries.
Joe, thank you so much, my friend. We'll be in touch. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you,
Thank
sir. Thank
All
you.
right, folks, I got a few last words. And before I wrap up the program, I'll be back in about 20 seconds. How's that sound? Okay, folks, thanks so much for joining me tonight. One last word. Now, if you would like to have or see with your own eyes this resolution, all you have to do is go to our Patriot Desk website. We have a couple of websites, but this one is on the Patriot Desk website. Go to our Patriot Desk. It's thepatriotdesk.com. We have in the blog section, the commentary section, the entire resolution written for you to watch, to see. And you'll be absolutely so pleasantly surprised as to what's in that resolution. The Ohio State Legislature names names. They've got a list of people there who have been persecuted and arrested, and they've based their resolution on fact. And that is troubling to the Trudeau government because he cannot refute fact. He may be able to refute some of us out here who are doing the best we could to get the facts out there, but he's not going to be able to fight off the entire state of Ohio. And we're going to add and add and add. We're going to work very hard to add more states to that. That's the patriotdesk.com. And folks, that's about it. So what an exciting night. What a great guest, huh? I'll tell you, we're very proud of the people here in Canada and the United States and how we've come together to work for faith and freedom. And I'm sure we're going to have more and more people joining us in this fight for faith and freedom. We're making history, folks. It's our time, right? What do we say at Campaign for America? Now is our time. And we're going to make that time very useful. That's it, folks. So Monday night, we'll be back on the air with the American edition of Campaign for America. And then next Thursday night, another exciting guest from that wonderful nation of Canada. Thank you all, folks. God bless you all. Again, Joe, thank you and your team and all the Canadians who have come forward to do what God has called us to do. Thank you all. God bless you all. Have a great evening. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.